Hit the lights.
You've discovered the Halfwatt podcast. We want to educate and entertain by tapping into the most trusted source of new technology, the ones installing and innovating it. You, the tradespeople that build from the ground up. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, veteran contractors, and even some young blood.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. So today we're interviewing Will, and I've tried to say your last name a couple of times. Is Betances the right way to say it?
Betances.
Betances. God dang it. I was so friggin' close. Betances. I love that. Now, you operate a 501c3 corporation to train electricians. And you're on the East Coast, and I appreciate you being here. I know that we talked about the that you're up doing a special event. So for those you who are wondering what this is Energize Us EDU. They have a website. They have an Instagram account. Will, welcome aboard.
It's a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much.
So tell me about your group. I've looked at your website. I'm an instructor as well.
Nice.
You've got the fact that you're a 501c3 is really, really cool. Like that's neat. I like that. Tell me why you chose that as a way to do it.
I'm going to be honest. It was a little greed on my point in the beginning. And I know that can be almost conflicting. You're like, if you're greedy, then how are you trying to have a non-for-profit? And it all started with what happened with COVID and how the worker shortage was throughout the U.S. And I also have an electrical contracting company out in Connecticut and in Massachusetts. And we had a big need for looking for skilled workers. And it was just trial and error, hiring guys, not having a good fit. And it almost seemed to be by coincidence why everybody applying for new jobs, why they didn't have a job. And I'm starting to see it's like, maybe there's a little pattern going on here. And instead of investing in training guys to undo the damage and the work that they've already known, I was like, why don't we create them from the ground up?
Excellent.
And that's how our whole approach started with the non-for-profit. But then I wanted to create an entity, and I was thinking, if I'm going through this same issue, I'm not unique. I'm not special. Somebody else is going through this same problem. And that's when I started talking to a few contractor friends who are all experiencing the same thing. And I said, let's get together. Let's start this thing together, and let's train the next generation.
Man, you're a man after my own heart. Honest to God, you're a man after my own heart.
We're trying. It's a lot of trial and error.
Well, you run a couple companies, right? You run one in Massachusetts and one in Connecticut. I get to go to Massachusetts next month for Simplex training.
Oh, nice.
So now you're a high voltage guy. You're not a low voltage guy, right?
Regular residential. You know what I mean? I barely do any live. I don't do live work. Yeah. So.
No, but so most of us are the podcast half watt because we're all half watts. We interview a lot of full watts, but in Oregon we've got this crazy apprenticeship program that we put folks through, and I teach in that because we just crank out a lot of limited energy electricians, and so the pejorative term for us is half watts by all.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. I didn't know that.
That's the term. Yeah. Oh yeah. And we're all good with it. We've embraced it. Matter of fact, one of my students it wasn't my apprentice, but he was one of my students. And, actually everybody associated with the podcast and probably half the people in Oregon are one of my students, but he started a company at the same time we were starting our podcast, and it's Half Watt Electric. And we had no idea that each other were doing this.
That is hilarious. Oh,
so man. He's got his gig going. And we interviewed him and his wife a couple of weeks ago, and it just blew us away. Like it was just like, I'm so happy that he's doing this. And anyway, so.
That is so impressive.
But we have this thing. Oh man, we love it. And so it's because it's a small, tight-knit community, and we know, everybody in our area, we're pushing for us to basically expand training. And we've got a 3-year program that the folks who are going to work on fire alarm systems have to go through. And you can go through, you can get a little bit of a lower license, and I say lesser license because you can't do life safety in 2 years. But I'm trying to encourage people to become a fire monkey, which is what I am.
I love that. I love that.
But you and I have the same philosophy, because I want whatever's in here and all the experiences here conveyed to employees and to apprentices. And that's super important to me.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I feel like that's not very prominent anymore. Everyone's, it's either they want to come into the trade for other reasons, or the ones who are in the trades right now don't have that oomph, that gumption, that I'm not paid to train mentality.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, especially in the East Coast, we see a lot of that.
I was going to say, it must be on the West Coast. We're the huge majority of them are IBW, and IBW out here is, man, they've got a hell of a program.
Yep.
I work with a bunch of IBW guys, because I work at a hospital, and almost all of our work that we don't do internally is handled by a really large electrical firm, or a couple of them. And I know like almost everybody on it, and they are just jaw-droppingly good. So I definitely am not opposed to what they do. And then the non-union side, which is who I teach for, we have because of the state of Oregon's got really pretty restrictive rules, and Washington, you can't just show up. So one of our students and a former apprentice of mine went to another state. He's in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And we were talking, and he's in contact with me a lot. And so he goes, I said, so what does it take to get your license in Oklahoma? He goes, I don't know, a pulse in 6 months and you're going to have one.
Oh, wow.
I'm like,
interesting.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, okay, well, I got that part down.
Yeah.
And so he is there, and he, like I said, he checks in with me all the time. And the other day he calls me up and he goes, hey, I'm reprogramming this pretty big system. It's an ESD system for a data center. And I said, wow, that's some pretty like amazing stuff. And he showed me the prints, and we were sharing it back and forth, and he was asking me some questions, because I've been in the industry a while. And I just gave my recommendations, and I asked, pat him on the head and sent him on his way. He reaches out a couple of days ago and says, not only did we get it together, did it work out right, 100% test, everything went perfect. Because it's a data center. So you've got, some cross zoning and suppression release and all that stuff. He said, they're going to give me the next expansion. They've already given us the next expansion. They're like, we want you. So he left Oregon for, who knows what, and is already making huge strides in Oklahoma City. Like they're starting to, his name's starting to catch on.
Wow.
And like, oh my God, this guy knows what he's doing. And they're all saying, yeah.
Good for him.
So I'm super excited.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's like, not to like belittle, or make it sound belittle. It's like the baby bird left its nest, flapping its wing, and now he's just soaring. So that's a beautiful.
And he's going to be a behemoth. He will. I mark my words. In 5 or 10 years, everybody in Oklahoma is going to know him.
I love
guarantee it. Especially because he's very dynamic, and he was a teacher too. We sucked him in.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
The program to be a teacher, and so he knows he's got all those teaching skills too. So I'm just think he's chomping at the bit to actually do kind of what you're doing. So I hope, because he'll listen to this and maybe he'll think, oh shoot, I could start a training program.
No, I love that. And especially the fact that you mentioned that personality side of him. The fact that he has the ability to not only be a good worker, but to have that charismatic, that work ethic, because we learn very quickly, not all tradesmen can just open up shop on their own. It's so many soft skills. There's so many background knowledge that you have to work. And on top of that, you're in customer service now. So to be able to hold a conversation, to be able to have that dialogue back and forth, I think that's half of everything being in business. You have to sell yourself and to be at least presentable for someone to say, hey, let's enjoy a conversation right now. No.
Okay. So how did you get into this trade? Because you do have very good personal skills. So how you didn't stumble into this, right? I mean, how did you get into this? What made you want to be an electrician?
What I always tell everybody, I was very fortunate growing up. Fortunate as in the sense where I don't have a hero story. I don't have, the superhero. I had an extreme hard time upbringing. I had a very, very fortunate life growing up, and I had amazing examples in my life. And they took the initiative to make sure I didn't go down a path that I shouldn't go down. And nice. I had a lot of friends of my parents who themselves were in the trades, business owners, and they said, this is the path you should go to. Of course, now you throw a little teenager boy growing up in New York City into it, and my mindset is a little different. Yes, couldn't agree with you 100%. To the point where when I was applying for high school, I was just going to go to a regular high school where all my friends were going to go. The typical, they're all going there, I'm going to go there. And in New York City, when you apply for a high school, you either go to your zone school, which is where it's just the regular, I'm not going to apply anywhere else. I'm not going to take a test to get into a specialized school. So I'm just going to go to my zone school. It's just the easy answer, basically. If you wanted to get into specialized vocational high schools, you had to take an exam to get into them. And all my parents' friends, they were very self-aware of how foolish I can be. So when I was applying for the high school and I just said zone school, they took the application from me and they said, nuh-uh. And they filled it out for me. And they listed the 3 vocational high schools. It was like Queensboro, Thomas Edison High School, and it was some other high school that I even forgot to this right now.
It's funny because I've actually heard of the first 2. I've heard of Queensboro and Thomas Edison. I've never been to New York in my life.
In New York City, yeah. They're the biggest program.
That's crazy.
And
wow,
because of them, they said, if you're going to go through high school, might as well get that certification with you. He goes, and these were some very well-off contractors. And they said, if you go through your high school in a vocational high school, you will be 4 years ahead of me. And these guys were already were already successful by definition. And they just put me on the right path, and they made sure I was taking it serious. I was just very fortunate. I can't complain whatsoever.
That's wonderful, man. Because the fact that you went to those, and I'm not knocking college, because people who listen to my podcast know that I'm not an anti-college person. But I tell you what, I work with a guy who's got a master's in lit, and he is freaking fantastic electrician, and he's a go-getter too, and he just never stops moving. And so he beats himself up because he spent all his money getting this degree that he still uses, by the way. He's a beautiful rider. He's got a great head on his shoulder. And but he's like, God, I wish I should have just done this and all these things. And I'm like, well, look, so I've told kids that I've talked to, my recommendation is you get out and you get yourself into a trade, because that won't be outsourced. There's nobody, if you're sitting in front of a computer screen doing work, that can be outsourced flat out.
Of course.
You get a 4-year degree, you've got that debt, plus then you got to go find a gig. And that gig's not going to be paying nearly as much as if you'd spent, 3 years in our apprenticeship out here in Oregon. When you get done with our apprenticeship at this point, you're making just about over 37, like 30 an hour. All right. So you're making almost 70 grand a year in 3 years.
Yep.
And you don't have the debt.
You hit it on the head.
And you don't have the debt.
Yep.
And you get a skill that's not going to go away. I was just out of high school up in Vancouver, and I was talking, and there were a bunch of women that were talking to me, young girls. And I'm like, look, all I'm saying is that if you get in this trade, and you begin to go throw resumes out there, get on with a good company, and they see you. First off, there are very few women in the trade the numbers are, I can't tell you the exact numbers. I'm going to say about 5-6%.
Yeah, sounds about
so
right.
Every one of them, if you can get a woman on your staff, then you can apply for a minority status in certain contracts.
I believe it.
And that is a huge thing.
Yep. You hit all that. There's so many opportunities.
That's all I said. You got to get out there and get those opportunities. Yeah,
definitely. Yep. No, I agree. And that's so exciting how that's not just a local incentive or a local benefit. It's truly throughout the U.S. That stays true. You go to a trade school, the benefits outweigh the risk. And what's so beautiful about it, like you mentioned, not only 4 years, you're already don't have debt, but you're making good money compared to college after 4 years.
Yep.
But on top of that, with 4 years, you already have experience 4 years and already considered a journey level in some states.
Yeah.
So college, you leave college after 4 years, have debt, and you are basically working from the ground up. 4 years,
again,
the trade school,
4 years,
no debt, 4 years of a license, and you're coming out as a licensed journey person at that point. So it's completely tipped over. It's completely tipped over if you do the side-by-side comparison.
You're absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more. And as you know, in these trades, since we need people, and I've told them too, I said, look, I'm just an electrician, so I'm going to push you towards, bit wrenching or, electrical stuff, because that's what we're doing.
Yep.
And I'm going to kind of push you away from, not necessarily all your computer skills, because you're going to need them here, but the sitting in front of your computer. It doesn't matter to me if you're putting up sheetrock, if you're bending tin, if you want to be a plumber, if a plumber is what you're into.
Right.
It's something that cannot be outsourced. That's the key.
Correct.
And so
I do find when we go down that path, I feel like there's still different tiers within the blue collar trades, though. As you know, like what you just mentioned, I 100% agree with you. Get into the blue collar trades. I love that. But if you want to take it to the next layer, then you want to enter a specialty trade. We know specialty trade, that's classing and schooling and licensure. That's different from, in some states, I don't know what it's called, but over here on the East Coast, it's a home improvement contractor or a general contractor license. You don't need to take a test. All you need is $250 and you can build a house if you want, technically.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, yeah. On the East Coast, that's what we have. We have home improvement contractors or new home contractors. You don't need a test to become a framer.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's...
In Oregon, I think for general contracting out here, that's a license. It's a whole...
Really?
It's pretty highly regulated. The whole state is, which drives...
It should be.
I like it too. And when I get it, when people give me crap in the classroom, I'm like, well, there's always rules and stuff. I'm like that. Is that each rule, each law, each code means more money in your pocket, flat out.
Oh, heck yeah. Every update, it's another service call, baby. You want ARC phones? Let's go. Let's go. You want protection?
So, so you're doing two things. You're saving lives. Like arc fault's a good example. Now they're requiring arc fault, right, in bedrooms. And so I explain to my students, do you know what arc fault is? And I go through the whole thing. I said, so your kids, you got little kids and you've got a, zip cord goes underneath the bed. They're monkeys jumping on the bed, doing what kids do. What? If that bed is pounding on that zip cord, it's breaking it apart. Now it starts to arc. Now I've got a circuit breaker that detects that arc trips.
Yep.
Game over. Stops the fire before it even starts. So, now that that's required, everybody's got to have it. Someone's got to put it in, man. And you want to retrofit, you just want to do a remodel, it's got to be put in.
Yep. That's the business side of looking at things. I love that.
So now you're because you're licensed in 2 states. So now you've got, which I've run a couple of companies and it ain't easy. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to do the taxes and the payroll and all that jazz. You picked up all those skills as well. So not only are you an electrician, but you're also a business owner.
Correct.
And that And now you on the side, you've got this other business, this one that we're talking about here, where you're training people to go either into your business or into fellow contracting business. So, you're kind of creating a whole pipeline of for the industry.
Correct.
And in at least 2 states.
Yep.
And are you going to work back in New York, or are you just going to stay in Connecticut and Massachusetts?
Oh, no. We already had a few interviews. We already put it out to the universe, so we can go back on our word. But we're trying to scale this thing with chapters. We're going coast to coast by 2025. One thing that's going to differentiate us between any other organizations, we know there's some great, and once again, like you mentioned before, I am all for education. We need trained guys out there. We need guys, women. We need skilled workers, period. The United States is way too big to say union, non-union. There's too many people. There's plenty of work going around. There's no need for this competition. It's not union. It's not non-union. It's not black. It's not white. It's not left, up, down, inside out. It could be whatever it is. It doesn't need to be. But we need trained and trades workers. What we are trying to do is become our own chapter organization as well. We want to be able to be out there with IEC, ABC, and the unions. But one thing that we want to do that differentiates us from everybody else is the fact that we as business owners can also look at schooling as a benefit. Like, these organizations like, once again, IEC, ABC, they are chapters with contractors. Basically, contractors supply them with their employees, they train them, and then they give them back. So you're fortifying and updating their workforce development. Yet as a business owner, the issue we are facing right now is the skilled tradesman shortage. Everyone needs workers, yet there are nobody to hire. Then you go down another layer. Why can't companies hire? Well, every state is different, as we all know, and every state has their own Department of Labor, and they all have their average hourly rates. And what's upsetting now is to come into the trades. I don't know in Oregon, Washington, on the West Coast, but coming into the trades, you start off around 15, 16 an hour coming in with zero experience, green. And I personally done interviews with individuals from Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire, where they said, why should I jump into the trades for 16 an hour when I can start at 20 at Target? I had that multiple times said to me, and that's just stuck in the back of my head. And I said, you're absolutely right. Of course, you try to explain the pros and the cons. The longevity of the trades is not an overnight thing. Explaining how, yes, Target, you may start at 20, but what are you going to cap off at? 22, 23, 24?
Exactly, 22.
With the trades, you start at 16, but you have no cap. On top of that, you're getting regular raises as long as you go through these approved curriculum courses. Every 6 months, you get another 10, 12%. That's going to start adding up quickly. And then on top of that, you have no cap. You have no cap as in the sense where if you stay with a company, yes. If you now go on your own and freelance and go private, educator, contractor yourself, or inspector, you have no cap. You literally can decide how much you want to make. So I saw the need, as in people are choosing Target over us because they're getting $20 an hour more. And I said, why is that? Well, people need, and right now, as we're experiencing the inflation, everything is hyperinflated. So I said, okay, people need money because it's their normal cost of living right now that's being affected. So what can I do to relieve that from these new hires that I, plan on hiring? So when we came to the school idea, and I said, what's going to incentivize the next generation to come pick a trade? Because once again, we need new people coming in to learn the trade, so contractors can hire them, so the contractor can send them to us for us. So I have to do the legwork for the contractor so they can hire somebody. So I said, okay, I met with a few contractors. I spoke with them and I said, let's do this. Let's have an arrangement where if you guys hire somebody and send them through our 4-year curriculum to get their certification for the classroom hours, we as an organization will also cover or partially cover the most expensive expense of these individuals, which we all know is housing, mortgages. Every month, that's our biggest expense. True or not? It doesn't compare to a car. It doesn't compare to property tax. It doesn't compare to utilities. As an average human being in the East Coast, our number one expenses are housing. So Energize Us, EDU, will provide affordable housing for all your employees who are enlisted in our 4-year curriculum. That also incentivizes them to stay all 4 years to get that housing. And it also incentivizes these employees to stay with their contractor. The contractor will be getting 4 years out of this employee. As long as they stay enlisted in our in-network contractors and stay in our course, we will provide affordable housing for them. So not only are we already looking for contractors to partner up with, but we're also looking for property so we can build our own affordable housing units. That's our goal by end of 2025.
That's a stroke of genius. That's a stroke of genius. And if it's under the umbrella of a 501c3,
you see, you're connecting dots already.
Yeah. That's a stroke. That's a business model.
It's longevity.
Successful.
Once again, how do we incentivize them? We know they're all going through the same issue.
That's an absolutely good way, because it takes apart that burden, gives them a space that you could, and an invest.
It's just a little breathing room, just so that 16 an hour now can go a long way.
Yeah, because if you've got a roof over your head, that now you're making 16. I mean, essentially 16 profit. Yeah, and not $2 a profit, and $14 to cover your house. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Smart. That's a smart plan.
And we had a few interviews we already did with LA Weekly, US Reporter. We just had an interview this week with USA Today. Now, good. We threw it out there, and so it's out in the universe. Now all we have to do is make sure we don't go back on our word. And that's where I come into play. That's where this is now the time where I have to work and show the value.
Yeah. Wow, man. I'm just still letting that sink in. That's a smart move, because you're right. I've seen property prices on the East Coast. I mean, I can't afford crap out here. I can't afford it at all. Mm-hmm. The last house I owned, I sold for a huge profit and wound up, I can't go buy another one. I mean, I'm just stuck at the moment. Yeah. So it's
especially the new ones coming in, they want to take the jump.
Yeah.
They're already incentivized because they already hear the negative side effects of college. Mm-hmm. You already have them. You don't even need to upsell trade schools. They already are saying no to college. You don't need to compete with college. It already has their own.
You've already beat that. So you want to take this model and essentially franchise it.
Correct.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's a stroke of genius right there. God, I wish you luck, man.
Thank you. Yeah, that's our goal.
I'm just letting all that sink in. I'm just going, holy cow. That's brilliant.
It's going to be definitely going to be a fun one. We have 120 contractors already in California, all on board.
I could see them easily getting on board, because that is. So, you're going to do an event in Burbank and in July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So tell me about that event, please.
So as an overall summary, the best I can describe it is it's Disney World for blue collar folks on steroids. In what sense, you may ask?
I need that shirt.
Once again, just like IEC, ABC, union chapters, everybody has conventions. IEC has Spark, where we see a few big names who attend it. ABC has their own events going on, and IBEW as well has their own events. they all do skills games. They all do skill challenges, and they all have courses, continuous ed courses to take, live trainings. We even have NECA, organizations like this who are hosting conferences. But how are we going to differentiate between the rest? One thing that we're going to be doing is recognizing the need of electricians. What I recognize is the community base of electricians and electrical contractors. It's so high compared to any other trades. If you go on social media, HVAC, plumbing, welding, sheet metal, they don't have the following base that electricians have. Sparkies have. Sparkies through the roof. They're the number one trades when it comes on social media.
Yep.
And they are directly tangled with the next generation. Like it or not, they are. Especially after the last few years with COVID. Without anybody able to travel, this was our escape. You couldn't leave your home. So this was this was Hawaii. This was Disney World. This was going to that's all we had. And of course, there's some amazing individuals out there who blew up because of COVID. Supply and demand. There was a low supply of traveling, so the demand on Instagram was through the roof. So these individuals became very, very popular online. But now that circumstances change and the world's opening up again, we have to grow with our audience. So our audience is back out there. Once again, now that goes back to the need of the electrical community. Electricians are very loyal, and they go to these events because they want to participate in them. If you notice lately, the last 2 years, everybody's been talking about NECA. If you notice, you go on NECA's website, and the first thing you'll see is NECA, its intended target audience. It says 8 out of 10 people who attend NECA are from procurement departments with purchasing authority. NECA is intended for manufacturer companies to negotiate deals with each other. It's not a social networking event. NECA's webpage says that. It's for marketing. And when we went, you saw it was C-level suite executives all around who don't even know who an influencer is. That's the sad truth.
Yeah.
But the electrical community is so loyal and so in dire need for a meetup that they rather go to NECA because it's something. And I'm saying that with all the respect.
Because it's better than nothing. So
exactly. And once again, from NECA's own webpage, I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying on their webpage, just saying this is not for this. This is for procurement. This is for manufacturing. And this is for purchasing. That's the purpose of NECA. So we saw that need. We saw the community wanting to get together. But then we also see IEC, we see Spark, we see ABC and their workshops. But everybody sings the same tune. How are we going to be in a blue ocean compared to all these guys, sharks in a red ocean? And then I go back to Instagram. And I said, how about I get the biggest names of influencers, pitch this idea to them, and see what happens. So I called them all up one by one, direct message. Hey, this is the school. This is our goal. This is what we want to do for July. And in the beginning, they all said no. And especially one that I'm very, very dear friends with, Rudy of Rightwire. He hit me with some facts. He said, I'm only going to tell you no because I don't know your true intentions right now. So I'm saying no right now, but that doesn't mean I will say yes later. Doesn't mean I won't say yes later.
Yeah, I won't say yes.
And it took 6 months. I flew out to California 2-3 times just to break bread with this guy, just to work a day with him at his company, just to spend some time with him just before he calls me up and says, let's do it. And then that was the break in the iceberg. After that, I was like, okay, we're good. And I replicated the same thing. I flew to Utah, met Brandon the Solar Goat. We talked about the school venture, what we had to do. It was I might get heat for this, but once again, I planned all of this out years ago, and now I started working on these goals to the point where, once again, my family knew what we were doing and everything. They're all in line. I have a very supportive household. I left on Christmas Day to go to Utah.
Wow.
To sit at a hotel because I needed to work with Brandon before the end of the year. And I said, Brandon, it's Christmas Day. I'm going to sit at the hotel. You tell me when you're ready to speak. And Brandon, I'm referring to the solar goat. Next day,
I saw him on your website. I was going to ask you about him.
Next day, he calls me. Are you still in town? I'm like, I'm not leaving until we meet. That night, we went to dinner with Brandon and his wife, and the rest is history. Now we're partners.
Good.
I done that.
So you've got a hell of a business head on your shoulders, man. Seriously.
I don't say it's business head. It's a lot of trial and error, but I'm quick with it. I'm quick to fail.
You're working towards this your generation. You're a lot younger than I am. Okay, I'm 60, so I'll be 60. So, you're hitting this generation. Like Gage, my producer, he's in the same generation. He's on Instagram. He knows all these things that we've interviewed a couple of folks that, including Mike Holt, who was jaw dropping. Like I had no idea. Like I knew who Holt was and I'd used his stuff before, but when I interviewed him, I was just like, holy cow, this guy is as impressive. It was really impressive. Mm-hmm. And a mountain bike guy. But you're hitting the right demographics for the age group. I mean, that you're reaching out to them the way they should be reached out. Because how many 24-year-olds are going to go to, or 30-year-olds are going to go to a convention of a bunch of. You're exactly right. I can't really articulate what you've said.
And then take it a step further. What if they say or lean towards another educational facility rather than the traditional courses? Mm-hmm. You can be Alice in Wonderland. We can go down that rabbit hole all you want. It's just going to be a truly uncapped potential. Expand on that.
Expand on that. What exactly you mean by that, so my listeners can get an idea?
So, once again, traditional education. It's always been college versus no college, mm-hmm. union versus non-union, black versus white. Mm-hmm. Remember, we're coming into a space where we recognize it's a busy red ocean. Red ocean as in it's congested. There's a lot of sharks. There's big players in the field. How is an organization like Energize Us going to even be able to compete? And that's just basic business 101. If they are mm-hmm. contractors who've been in a business 10, 20, 30 years plus, second generation plus, how am I going to get a job when they already have years of service and credibility behind them? I need to incentivize why going with me is different. And it's the same mm-hmm. approach. Why go to the union? Why go to ABC? Why are we going to go to IEC? We have to tailor the approach to the next generation. We know who the next generation are listening to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
you do.
So that's what I meant by the rabbit hole, as in traditional education.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're reaching out to them. It's like when I talk to I got a philosophy. I was a manager before I took this gig I have right now, and I was an operations manager. I had a whole bunch of people working for me, and I kept reiterating to the people running the company, and I was an officer in it, going, look, the most important thing are the employees, but not like the shuck and jive that you hear, like, the employees are the most important asset. Everybody knows that. Yeah. But what I mean by that is that if they need to go to school, they need the tools, they need the time, they need the cross training. If I know that you can work on a product, you can work on something, and I can't, then I need to either learn what you've got, and I need to get that out of your head and get those skills into my head so that I can turn around and pass it on to somebody else. That's the way the apprenticeship, the master apprentice philosophy works. if I'm teaching, if you're a master mason and I'm teaching an apprentice, this person is going to build a bridge based upon the knowledge I teach this person. Okay. I mean, if he's doing it with stones. So everything that I know, every skill, every tool, every trick, every possible way of doing something goes into the apprentice with as much vigor as I can get. And along with the philosophy of don't you keep any of the shit that you know hidden. Yep. Share it. Get it out to more people.
I love
Continue to share it so that this becomes like a big V of influence.
Yep. You hit it on the
same
head.
thing when I'm teaching. You've got to be that way, and you run into the opposite philosophy at times. Well, when I left the company and I went back to a place I'd worked at before, it's a big hospital out here. As soon as I got there, they're saying, "Hey, well, you were a manager for a long time. We'd love you to be our coordinator." I said, "Nope, I'm not coordinating people. I'm not going to do that. I'll train apprentices. I'll train your folks. I'll work with them. I'll make sure that everything I know, they'll know, and I'll work on the only employee I want is this fire system. It's a huge fire system. It's a very, very super complex one." And I said, "I'm just going to continue to work on this and make it shine, and then show everybody every trick on how to maintain it, so that this group will be successful in ways that we can't count."
I love that.
And they're like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, I'm running people." And that, matter of fact, I even coined a term. I said, "Look, managing is like coping. Like I manage because I broke my leg, so I have to use crutches. I cope with my broken leg."
Yeah,
but
I like that.
Coaching is a whole different world. Coaching is like, no, I know if I'm coaching a team of players, I know where to put the players, and I'm watching them and I'm seeing where they're learning, and I know what they don't have and what they need and how to move the team around to move the damn ball wherever I want to move it.
Beautiful.
That is what it should be called. It should not be called managing. It should be called coaching. And that's what I want to do. And I don't have any problem doing that, but sitting here being a coordinator pushing paper ain't it.
I love that.
We're losing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got to have, but what your product is right down that same vein. You're because electricians, when they get on a construction site, are there from the beginning till the end.
Correct.
Where plumbers you're going to plumber's going to bungee in, they're going to do certain, then they're going to bounce back out, and then they're going to come a few weeks later, going to bounce back out. Cement guys be there for the foundation, then they're going to go. Then they're going to come back, do some more work, then they're going to go. Drywallers, you're not going to need drywallers the whole time. You're not going to need painters the whole time. You're not going to need people the whole time. You're going to need electricians every freaking day.
Yep.
So they know, and as well as I know that in the industry, if you're a crappy electrician, you're not getting hired. Yep. You're going to bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce and bounce. But if you know your stuff, man, everybody's clamoring for you. They all.
I'm with it. I'm with that 100%, and I love that mindset that you have, and that's that same mindset what you had of passing it on to the next generation, showing them the ins and outs. You mentioned another part. They don't know what they don't know. But you as a coach, you have that foresight and you have hindsight behind you. Experience and know what's coming. That's a beautiful combination. Yep. And that's what's also included with the event in July. So what you mentioned,
I love it.
How you have to pass on what you know, hindsight and foresight. Not only are we having the biggest names, the biggest influencers in the trade coming to this event, but what we are doing, and why I say it's going to be the Disneyland on steroids, is the fact is, once again, what's a blue ocean? These events, they don't have many influencers come to them. We're going to have the influencers there. But I'm not satisfied with that. I want the next layer in, because in my business side, if I do this, next year, someone else is going to do it. So I said, what's the next layer in? I'm already thinking 2-3 years ahead. So in this event, not only are we going to be having the most influential tradesmen and women in this event, but we are going to be working with them. We have skills challenges and skills events hosted by these individuals. For example, we're having mock-up roofs, and it's not just send a message or a DM to SolarGo. It's not just take a picture with SolarGo. It's go work with SolarGo. So now
let him show you his tricks.
So now, exactly. And guess what? That's nothing on the school. That's Brandon teaching directly the next generation his work ethic. That is what we need to incentivize the youth. It's not a like, it's not a DM, it's not a video. It's go work with your hands with your star. That's the Disneyland on steroids. It's Illuminati Electric. Everyone knows his page. Everybody knows how his wires are. How does he do it? We don't know. But guess what? In July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, you're going to find out. You're going to find out how he makes his wires so straight. And not only that, go do a few panels with him.
Yeah.
Rudy of right wire.
Yourself. And then take that back to your state.
And guess what?
And set the example.
Exactly. And now we're planting seeds all across the U.S. For the next 2 weeks, everyone's going to be taking photos. July 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Everyone's going to be taking photos of their panels because of Jimmy, because of Illuminati.
And putting it on Instagram and sharing it and going, yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
So they're passing off their work knowledge, their experience directly to the next generation. That's all I can ask for. And we have 7 other most influential people.
This is right up about 50 people in those alleys. So we've got a Burbank, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
Just say the word. Just say the word.
Yeah. No, I've got to talk to the better half on that.
Yeah.
I like
invite her too.
Anyway.
And what's in?
Yeah, I'm from Southern California, so it'd be fun to go back. July is going to be hot as hell, but that's all right.
Yep. But that's why we're indoors. So, that's exactly the point also. So we will be indoors for this event. Which would make sense. So this event, we are hosting it at the Marriott Convention Center at Burbank, California, right across the street from the airport. And we have the event for 3 days.
Wow. Okay.
And we have so many partners, sponsors already, where we have, as you are well aware, many of these influencers who are part of the event on their regular pages, they have sponsors, of tool companies who supply them and they talk about their products. We are very fortunate that we have all these tool sponsors where also not only do you come to the event, you get to work with them. You'll be using their tools and be able to take those tools home with you. So
is Milwaukee one of those sponsors?
They told me I can't. Well, a few of them said I can't speak. I can't speak. Yeah.
And I'm not going to put you on the spot, but Milwaukee been very, very good to us. So we interviewed them. They gave us some stuff, and their new line of stuff is just really, really super good. So I'm like,
I'm excited.
I'm hoping that
we have some
they're involved with it.
We were very surprised at how many people we got. So once again, throughout my life, just had very amazing people throughout my life, that see the value and they want to push the same message.
You're making me very feel very proud. I mean, of just having the chance to talk to you tonight. It really is. So now you're doing an all-nighter for another purpose back there. Do you want to talk about that?
No, it's just we're pulling an all-nighter just to do the official release. We're doing the media, the marketing campaign begins at midnight. So one more hour on our time. So it's just just getting ready. But that 6 to 3, I'm working in my electrical company, making sure all the crews are happy in both states. 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock, I'm checking in on the schools because we're still in the early stages. So I'm just making sure everything's moving in the right direction, spend time with the family. And then around 7 to 9, usually because we have a newborn now. Oh, don't even get me started with that story. The day we had 2 practice runs with the event in California. Our last one was in February. That was the one where we had 100 contractors show up. Wow. The event in, I think it was Van Nuys, California, at a lighting supply store. And it was a very nice turnout. But once again, I have a very supportive family. I flew back home on Sunday and my wife gave birth to our beautiful baby boy on Monday. So
wow,
this woman, like I already mentioned, the Christmas and everything. Thank you. This woman has been, I've been blessed to have very supportive people in our life. But yeah, that's the gist. So right now is usually when I'm prepping for the next day and also prepping for the school. I go on Instagram lives with Rudy, with a few other influencers on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time. So this is normal for us.
Wow, man, you got a lot of energy at this. That's good.
I'm racing against the clock. I'm racing against the clock.
Yeah, you are. Well, I do see that you use NCCER's books, which I teach out of one of them. So I appreciate that. Excuse me. COVID got me a couple of weeks ago. I'm still kind of dealing with the repercussions of that. Fully vaxxed, all that good stuff. My wife and I got it, and it was like, well, just
play safe.
Not fun, but yeah, it was a little rougher than I thought it was going to be because I was, I'd already had all those vaccines, but it still was better than. I mean, I'm still alive. So.
Was it one of the new strains that got you?
Yeah, one of the new ones. It didn't I didn't lose my sense of smell or taste or anything like that. And honestly, the actual bug wasn't that bad, but I kind of have a couple lung issues in it, and that's the lingering effect.
Yep.
It's just
that's where it gets you.
And I'm kind of an athletic guy, so it kind of affected my workouts and.
Yep. The stamina and everything. Yep.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, in Oregon, until recently, it's in the winter out here, and you're in Connecticut, so it's not a mystery to you, but we don't get as much snow as we get rain and just dismal gray. So the sun comes out, and we're all like, "Oh my God, what is that? We have to go play, do something outside." Wow. Well, what is the name of the event again, so that everybody knows it?
So it's the Growth Convention. On Instagram, just created a page for its growth_convention.
Okay. The Growth Convention. Got it. Well, we will do our best to talk about it and to push it forward.
I appreciate that. That truly means a lot. Truly, truly.
Man, what a fantastic interview. I don't know what else to ask you other than we've covered how you got in the trade and you obviously got your head on straight. You've got a good family that is supporting you. I appreciate that. And you've hit it all, man. You really have.
Oh man, thank you so much.
I'm super proud of you.
Thank you. I'm just trying to keep everyone happy.
Well, you're doing it. You're keeping people employed. And you're moving forward, man. That's the name of the game.
Thank you. I'm trying to keep up with you guys.
Well, I do appreciate your time, and I think I'll talk to Gage and see if we can't get you on at least. If why don't we make it down to this thing at least after it, we can hear how it all went.
Please.
Yeah, we're definitely but this is a very this makes me feel very good inside. So thank you for your time tonight.
Oh, thank you, brother. Truly.
Thanks for listening to the Half Watt Podcast. We always want to hear from you, and we encourage you to email us at halfwattpod@gmail.com with questions or even your own stories. Funny, crazy, or praiseworthy, we want to hear it all. You can follow us on Instagram at halfwattpod to stay up to date on our feed. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and share us with a friend, the best way to help us grow. The Half Watt Podcast is a production of Now Hear This Studios.